Welcome to Sage Women, the podcast for midlife ladies navigating perimenopause, menopause, and healthy aging. I'm Melanie White, and each week I talk with experts and women sharing real stories, practical insights, and smart tips to thrive through this stage of life and beyond. It's Melanie here on the Sage Women podcast, and I'm really excited and happy to introduce Michelle Hall. Michelle, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Mel. I'm excited.
Me too, because I know you've been doing some really interesting work. But maybe before we talk about that, could you give us a little bit about your background, who you are, what you do, that kind of stuff?
What I do at the moment, I teach at a TAFE, and I teach fitness courses. So, certificate 3, certificate 4 in fitness,
Mm-hmm.
and that is in the city. But I come from the country, and I'm just sort of at that stage that I'm going, right. I need to try and bring this fitness to the country areas a little bit more. So, yeah, that's my background. I've been there for teaching for nearly 30 years, so a long time.
Wow. So that's
Mm.
not to cast aspersions on your age or anything, but that's the start of the fitness industry in Australia,
Yeah,
perhaps.
yes, I've seen lots of change, lots of change. So, yeah. Yeah.
I did my PT qualifications around that time, so that's how I know.
Yeah. Well, and PT wasn't even a thing when you would have first started and when I first started, and now it's become pretty big. And
Mm.
I am still the group girl though. Like I like the group classes, bringing people together. Yeah. So yes, that's
And
probably my passion, but that's my thing I do. Hmm.
I love it. And I guess we'll be talking about the experience of women in regional country areas, remote areas, and exercise and some of those things today. But you said you live in the country, so what does that mean? Where is that exactly?
So I actually grew up in country Victoria, a small town called Conniva, and I did do a bit of a Google on Conniva to find out how many people actually live there now, but it's like under 1,500 in the Shire. So
Mm.
it's a pretty small town. I didn't feel like it was that remote, but it's sort of classified as a remote town, and so it's in the country. There's not a lot of facilities, but there's some community sport is big, obviously. Yeah. And then I've moved to the city and seen the other side and the opportunities you have there. So,
Very
mm,
different. Yeah.
mm.
Actually, it's great that you have that vision of the two extremes, I suppose, city living and remote country areas. What do you think's the main difference between those two in terms of what's available for exercise or just health generally?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I grew up and it was country sport. So and your country sport is pretty limited, generally speaking. So, you have your netball, you have your football, you have your tennis, you have your cricket. So it's those traditional sort of sports, hockey, a few other things.
Mm.
But it's all community sport more so. Some centres, like Kaniva, for example, has a stadium that has a small multi-purpose sort of gymnasium there. Um, but then you come to the city and there's a commercial gym on every corner block almost. So you certainly don't get that.
Mm. Yeah, they're less formal options, I suppose. It's really focused around team sport in the country and not much else by the sound of
Mm.
things.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how small you get, some towns will have small gyms, perhaps trainers, but then others don't. And so you are then restricted, and you find that when people get a little bit older, you're not tapping into that team sport. So then you're even more limited. So
Mm. So what
mm,
proportion of your clients are women?
at the moment, the group that I'm working with are all females. So all females, and they sort of range in age from 30s to 60s, 70s, and more probably, not so many at the 30s, but a couple in the younger age group. So, um, yeah, and some of them are still playing community sport, others are not. and looking for that, what can I do, and how do I do it now? They don't know how to do it because they haven't done it for a while. So, mm,
Right. So for some reason they'd drop out of team sports, might be having kids or work or those sort of family responsibilities, I'm guessing. And then how do I get
mm,
back into something that I can do
mm,
now?
yeah, yeah. And, because if you're playing netball or you're playing tennis, you can get injuries with that, and there's that time commitment. It's at a certain time of the day, or um,
Mm.
on your weekends, etc. And it depends on what's offered and how many people can make up a team as to whether they still run, and that fluctuates, year to year too. What's actually running.
Yeah.
So, and then it's just finding that next thing, like what else can they do and how do they do it? So, so it's been
Mm.
interesting, very interesting.
What are some of the key insights that you've had from working with these women?
Um, well, I get like one of them is they don't really know where to start, and they want to know how do they start, what should they do, how can they do it. The other thing that I've found really fascinating and loved, and this is why I love community, because they they want to hear like how everyone else is going, and they're really like gelling together as a group and want to support each other, and that sort of built their momentum up. So I love the community side of it,
Mm.
and also just seeing that people just want to know some basics of what they can do and how do they do it, and then having that confidence to then move into that.
Mm. And I guess that's what you're supporting them with, is finding those first steps and the confidence to get started.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna try and tap into another little area too, though, which is just offering like free fitness stuff to them, because that's also I've found that's an area that's lacking and they would like. So, and
Mm.
that's easy for me to do. I can do that because I already do that stuff anyway. So, yeah, so now it's just trying to work out which platforms and exactly how to do it. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm gonna start trying to build a like a strength type session that they can tap into once a week, and possibly a cardio one that they can tap into once a week. And then, people from small communities can come together and
Mm.
do the class. And they might be on a farm, they might come into the stadium in town, but they can participate as a group, but a small, regional group. So yeah, it'll be
Mm.
nice. Exciting. Hmm.
I can see you lit up about this. Like your whole face changes when you talk about it. And I want to know what do you get out of this? What do you love about doing this work? What's the why behind it?
Um, I love fitness. I do love fitness and I do love exercise. I'm not I'm not on the PT page as such in terms of, and I guess I've seen it. I've seen it for the last 20 years, and it's people come to a PT and it's what am I going to do and how do I do it? And you're telling them all the time. And I've just shifted from that, and I'm going, actually, it doesn't matter what fitness it is, like just do fitness. And so I love fitness. And I think that any form of fitness is great. And you do the one that, the best form's the one you're going to do, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
I'm pretty keen on that, and just getting people to do things. I think it's fundamental for everything else. And so now I'm marrying that with community and country regions because I don't know, they're my favorite. I like it. I'm a country girl at heart, and I love working with those people. I love the community feel. It's awesome. So I want to be able to give them something back.
I want to dig a bit deeper into that if we can.
Mm. Mm.
Why do you think it matters so much to have these connected communities that are being active together?
Well, I think the resources are fairly limited for a start, so there's not a lot for them to access. And they do like coming together as a community and being able to do things together. So I think that's a major part. Like there's just lack of resources and
Mm.
availability to do anything. And then on top of that, they don't want to do it because you could jump online and do something online and follow an online program, but community like doing things as a community.
Yeah.
So and it's special, it's unique. So I want to tap into that.
It sounds to me like you're really meeting them where they're at and leveraging some of the things that are important to them to help them to be more consistent with movement.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess so. And it is movement, but it can be other things too. So um, a lot of it is movement. I think that's because of what I've branded it in the end, which is find your fit. And so then I'm attracting people that are into um, fitness, but it doesn't have to be. Like it can be about um, just trying to find ways to de-stress. It can be ways around trying to, improve what you're eating, how you're sleeping, etc. So it's tapping into all of those. My big one is fitness though, and I think it sort of stems underneath that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm just trying to just give them access to more things.
It's interesting that you talked about exercise as being kind of the top level because I certainly see that too, is that when people are active, they more likely want to eat well, they're sleeping better, their
Mm,
mood is better, they're feeling more connected to themselves and other people. There's the appreciation of nature. It's just, and I suppose living in the country, you have access to that 24/7.
mm,
And then I makes me think, well, how motivated are people in remote areas to be active? Are they being active as part of their daily life already or not? Like what's the shift for them in terms of
mm,
working with you and doing the work that you're doing?
mm. I mean, they are active because a lot of them are females who are farmers and they're active in a certain way. But, so possibly, they're on their feet, they're moving around, but they're not doing fitness for themselves so much. So,
Mm.
and then when they tap out of that community sport, they're just not doing it for themselves. And the stats, which I do find amazing in terms of inactivity, it is actually slightly higher in rural, remote areas.
Mm.
And I wouldn't have thought that's the case because of the incidental work that they are doing throughout the
Mm.
day.
Mm.
But they are more inactive. And I think maybe because they do their community sport, but then they don't do anything else, but they're doing the incidental type
Incidental.
work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, and some are probably inactive with that too. Which is not a depiction on the ladies that I'm working with, by the way, but it's just
Yeah.
that your stats are that they're slightly more inactive in remote areas. So they're doing the incidental work, but it's not quite enough, according to the
Mm.
statistics, to improve those fitness levels.
Are there differences in health conditions or health risks or concerns in remote areas compared to city?
Um, Good question. I don't know the answer for that. I mean, obesity rates are slightly higher in rural areas, which
Mm.
again is a little bit surprising to me. So they're slightly higher. The issue with the rural areas is if you do have a condition, it's harder to get to them. So
Yeah.
travel time to, sometimes find a physio, find a specialist, is somewhere from Kaniva, and I wouldn't have really classified that as that remote. But, they might be traveling to Adelaide. So then it's 3.5 hours to get there, 3.5 hours to get back. One of the ladies had a injection in a tendonitis. and so it's a whole day to do that.
Mm.
So needed a cortisone injection, and so it's a whole day. And if you can
Wow.
prevent those things from happening, then it actually saves them a lot of time. So because it's hard to access some of those things.
Mm. Wow. So there's actually a lot of things I think I'm hearing is that when people are less active in remote areas and they don't have access to services, it's about how do we fill that gap? How do we help people become more active for all of the various benefits, including disease risks, mental health, and so on.
Mm, it's like I've found they don't really know what to do and what would be good for them, which again can be so vast, but it's okay. Well, if you've got, because their resources are pretty limited, so you might not
Mm.
have a gym, so it's okay. Well, you can still do stuff. What can you do? How much do you need to do it? Like, you know, some of the girls are, you know, doing dance sessions with their kids and
Yeah.
getting their activity that way. Others are doing squats when they have to move a mob of sheep and they're sitting there waiting by the ute. So, which is awesome. They've come up with them.
Mm.
Um, so they're just incorporating exercise different ways, and it's not fancy. It's not. They haven't got access to a gym to go and do a big group class or use all the
Mm.
latest CV equipment, cardiovascular equipment. So they've got to find other ways.
What you describe makes me think that it's more about not knowing what to do than not wanting to do it.
It is, yes, it is, Mel. It's they just don't really know. Which I guess that I didn't expect that. I thought it was, and some of them do want the push too. They
Mm.
want that accountability and they want that push. But then they just don't really know, besides doing the community sport, which is available, they don't
Mm.
know what else they could do because I guess most of the time it's in a big commercial gym that most,
Yeah.
city people will end up doing their exercise. So, and if you don't go for a run, then it's, pool's hard because that's only a summer thing if you've got access to a pool because it's not heated
Mm.
over winter. So, um,
Actually, you just touched on something that got me thinking about the whole community thing. I can understand why people in remote areas would want to be part of a community because you must spend a lot of time on your own. Like, who wants to go running at the end of the day on your own, yet again, when you've been doing stuff on your own all day or just with a couple of other people?
well, it's harder to motivate yourself, absolutely. And a lot of them are because they're on farms, even in Coniva, which I wouldn't have classified that as that remote, but they can still be half an hour, 45 minutes out of town. So you're not going to drive that far to
Mm.
catch up with someone. And then there's got to be someone that, runs remotely at your pace or at that time of the day or wants to walk or ride or whatever. So you are
Mm.
limited that way. So it's not just resources, it's resources in terms of, people to
Access.
do it with too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are three or four things that you've seen working in remote communities to get people active? Some of the key principles or pillars that work. Obviously, community is one of those, bringing people together. But is there
Yeah.
anything else that's kind of a requisite for people to something that works for people to be more active?
From what I'm seeing, the accountability is one of those things. So
Mm.
having someone that they can be accountable to, uh, having the knowledge of things that can be an option. So, I mean, one of the things that we've lent into quite heavily are resistance bands. So it's just learning basic equipment, body weight exercises, etc., that they can do without equipment
Mm.
that
Mm.
or limited equipment. And
Yeah.
and because they're country, you can say, look, just fill half a bag of wheat full, and you could use that as a resistance, and they're quite okay with that. That wouldn't work in the city, but it'll work in the country. They're not too fast. things don't have to, you know, look
Look a
awesome.
certain way.
They
Yeah.
don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So bands have been a winner in the program I've been running because they're easy. They don't cost much. They're easy.
And you
You've
can
got
flick people with them like a giant.
yeah, yeah. They're not doing that. Um, um, so that's been something that a lot of the women have tapped into, but body weight exercises too. I
Mm,
am going to go back and teach them a few things about around gym and using like the multi-station that is there because some of them are keen for that. And again, it's that they don't have the resources. There's not people there to instruct them, or if they are there, you know, they're busy and they're tied up because they used to run a class and now they've got three kids and it just gets too
yeah.
hard. So you may have an instructor, but then that person taps out and then there's
There's a
nothing
gap.
left. Yeah, there is. So
Mm. So continuity sounds like it's really important. Like from country sport, where do you go and how do you get continuity of the experience? Which I guess if it's down to one person and they tap out, as you say, go and have kids, where's the momentum coming from? And maybe
yeah,
that's the value of the community is it's a group of people that bring you together, that keep you motivated, that keep you accountable, that help you
yeah,
take action. And it's not
yeah,
relying on one person. It's the whole is bigger than the parts.
yeah. And that's what I'm really feeling, that you can create something like that and bring these small community towns together so that they are exercising together in a sense. So they might
Mm.
be a long way away, but they're all exercising together and they've got their little group, their accountability, basic resources, and can can have something to do besides that community sport. So, mm,
Mm. I think I'm also hearing from what you've said in this conversation so far, a bit of creative thinking is required. How do you use what's in your environment to
mm,
move more and move well, rather than just this narrow view of what fitness is or what exercise is, like using wheat bags or bands or any other thing or squats while you're waiting for sheep or
yeah,
you're helping them to think outside the box to come up with ways to build in activity by the sound of things.
yeah, because that's what they do need. When you don't have the resources, you've got to do the exercise in different ways. So, and it's so doable. Like it's so doable. It's just going back to basics, which is what you and I learned, and
Yeah.
now it's changed because there's so much on offer and but it's not accessible to regional areas. So
Mm.
they've got to go back to the basics, and the basics are pretty good. So yeah, so it's just getting
Yeah.
them, yeah, um, doing the basics and ideally together. That's what and even if it's not together, like I have found that even if it's not together, they'll then talk about, you know, did you do your walks this week and how did you go? So when they do meet up, they're talking about that. And then
Mm.
that's giving them each other accountability too, because someone else is checking in on them. So, you don't have to be doing something with someone, but if someone knows that you're doing it, then they've been able to feed off each other that way, and they've actually found that really valuable. So,
Mm.
so that's been interesting, and and that's awesome because that's what you want. You want them to be pulling each other along.
It
So,
sounds like a really self-sustaining model and something that you'd be able to do elsewhere. I'm interested in what plans you have for the work you're doing and where you'd hope to take it.
I know. I go. I know. I want to take it everywhere. I want to take it everywhere to regional areas. So my vision would be that you have a number of these really small regional, which is probably classified as the remote um, towns or areas where they don't have access to a gym or they don't have access to instructors,
Mm.
and they come together and they're doing a strength session together, or they're doing my vision is the park run.
Yeah.
You know the park run.
Yeah.
So, a 5K run where you would tap in live on a Saturday, and they all just go and they do their run, their walk of 5Ks, but they know that everyone else is doing it. And I think that's enough to
Mm,
make them accountable and to motivate them to keep going. So, I mean, how cool would that be if you can get lots of regional towns, just, 2 or 3, 10 people in each town tapping in
mm,
and doing exercise together at essentially the same time. Doesn't have to be, um, but essentially at the same time. And they don't have to be in the same place, so it's still available to them. So that's my long-term plan. So that's what I'd love to see happen.
that sounds amazing, Michelle. I hope we can stay in touch and we can hear more about how this progresses. I love your idea. I love what
Yeah.
you're doing. I love the impact that it's starting to have. And
Mm,
I hope we can speak to you again in the future about this and find out how it's panning out, what difference it's making, what the measurable impact is too, and how you're growing and scaling it. It sounds really exciting. And
mm.
thank you on behalf of regional women everywhere for your work.
Yeah, well, hopefully I can speak to you in the future and go, oh, there's people from all these towns that are participating, and it's got a nice little following, and just offering something that's essentially for free to regional areas. So it'll be exciting.
Thanks so much for being on the podcast today. Really appreciate your time and congratulations on your amazing work.
Thanks, Mel. Appreciate it.